Moses was a man of God, wasn't he? I'm looking forward to when I can see Moses. I'm gonna say, Moses, what was it like when he put you in the cleft of the rock? What was it like when you heard the voice coming from the fire? What was it like when this Red Sea was split and then closed? Whoa, oh, show me the video. Leviticus 17:1. When Doris is saying, will you please stand in one place? And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to Aaron and to his sons and to the children of Israel, and say to them, this is the thing what the Lord has commanded, saying. Let me skip down here just a little bit. Let me skip, because this is all good stuff, but I want to skip to some meat on here. Leviticus 17. Oh, my mistake. Leviticus 18. Pardon me. Pardon me. I'm looking for the good stuff and I couldn't find it. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, I am the Lord your God. Wow. Is He your God?
Yes.
Amen. Hallelujah. According to the doings of the land of Egypt, where you dwell, you shall not do. Okay? Where they were in Egypt, the Egyptians were doing some foul, wicked things. He said to them, don't do what the people in the land you used to live in, don't do that stuff. The people, what they used to do in Longton, don't do that stuff. So why did God have to say that? Because a lot of Christians like to have one foot in the world and one foot in church. And because lightning doesn't come out of heaven and turn them into a crispy critter, they think they can get away with it. And according to the doings of the land of Canaan, where I am bringing you, you shall not do, nor shall you walk in their ordinances. I'm going to paraphrase it for you. He said, the way the Egyptians were, in the sexual sins they had, in the promiscuity that they had, and the vile sins that they had, don't do that. The land of Canaan, where you are going, in the Stoke-on-Trent area, where you're going to take the gospel, the things that they're doing, don't do it.
Hallelujah.
And if you go, I'm not going to take the time, but if you read Leviticus 18 in the NIV, you better get a bucket to throw up, because it is vile. I read it for Doris and she said, oh, unbelievable, they did that stuff? I said, yes and yes. Babies thrown into the mouth of a god with flames burning and screaming while they had sexual promiscuity. Evil beyond evil in Canaan and in Egypt. So these children of Israel came out of that stuff and were going to go into that stuff. But they were not supposed to become like the people. They were supposed to conquer. Amen. They were supposed to kill every demonic thing in that area. You wonder why God said kill every man, every woman, every child, every animal, burn it to the ground, and make it into a dunghill. A lot of cities He told them to do that. Yeah. Don't touch the accursed thing. Some cities He said, don't you touch it, because of the vile, evil things they were doing in these places. Now you may say, well, what's that got to do with Gideon? Well, you're going to find out real quick. Judges. Let's go over to Judges chapter 2. Now, He's told Moses, and Moses has told the people, what you used to do in Canaan, don't do it anymore. What you see in the land of Canaan, don't do that anymore. Now we come to Judges 2. Give you a little bit of background before we get into Gideon. Verses 10 through 13. And I'll read it here out of the NIV. I have it right here. First I'll read it out of the New King James. I changed my mind. When all that generation had been gathered to their fathers. What generation? all of the generation under Joshua that worshiped the Lord, that followed the Lord's divine pattern and plan. They were worshipers. They were thanksgivingers. They were offering givers. They practiced all of the law. They obeyed God, therefore they loved God with all of their heart, mind, body, soul, and strength. But they made one mistake. They didn't teach their children. And when they had all been gathered to their fathers, another generation arose after them, who did not know the Lord, the secret place. They didn't know Him. They did not know Him. They had no communion with Him. They had no fellowship with Him. They had no thanksgiving, no offering, no praise. They had a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. They were still going through the motions. There was still the tabernacle set up. They were still going there, the priests and the Levites. Yes, I got to take the sheep at this time. Yes, I got to take the ox at this time. What a pain to go to church. But they were doing the religious duty. They were ticking the box. But they didn't know Him. Verse 11. Then the children of Israel did evil. Everybody say evil.
Evil.
Evil in the sight of the Lord. Not thinking that God was watching them. They had one foot in the world and one foot in church. And they began to mix in to the gospel, the worshiping of Baal. And you have a picture here on your paper. Now, I did a lot of research on Baal, because you see him in the Old Testament again and again and again. This is one form that he took, this relief. And what they would do is they would take a place, like a little hill, and they would clear out a place, and they would build a little mound, you know, and put this up so they could bow to it. Now Baal was a god. I don't want to go into too much detail. You can find a lot of this in your encyclopedias. But they believed that if they worshiped Baal, they would have good crops. That the cattle would reproduce. The sheep would reproduce. Now, you know from farming, you know from being in an area, if you're an agrarian society, you live and die by your crops. You live and die by your cattle. You live and die. There's no grocery store. There's no Tesco to go to. You got to have rain at the right time.
Yeah.
And they believed by worshiping Baal that they'd have rain at the right time, that they'd have productivity. Now, Baal had a wife in the story. It's a lie, but it's a story. And she is called by Ashtaroth. And this is a Ashtaroth pole. And you'll see in the Bible, they'll say they worshipped in the high places in the groves. This is one way that they would have. They'd have several of these around Baal, because it's his wife. She represents fertility. So that was also for the crops, for them to have children, because in those days you wanted a lot of kids so they could work in the farm. 10, 15, 20. So you wanted productivity, you wanted fertility, that was your money, that was your prosperity. This god, Baal, and this goddess, Ashtaroth, or Asher. There's a lot of names and a lot of different versions, but these are the two common ones. They would put this place up, several of these poles, and then Baal in the middle. And they would worship him on the weekdays and then go to church on Sunday. And take the sheep and have the sheep, and the Levite and the priest would do the thing. Then on the weekday they go over and they bow to Baal. They were doing both. And God said, evil. Because if you go through the book of Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, again and again and again, God said, do not bow to another god. Don't do it.
Amen.
Because those were the gods of the Canaanites. Now you've got a little picture of what's going on here. These people don't know God. They're serving Baal, and they're serving God. They are straddling the fence. This one's for my prosperity, and this one's so I don't know why. My dad told me I'm supposed to do this.